If this world is nothing, then you mean your mother is nothing, your father is nothing, your children are nothing. Then prayer is nothing because that's in this world. What I'm trying to get at is sometimes what you feel like is an emptiness. We think every time there's a problem, it's a spiritual problem. Sometimes it's something physical that's causing a crisis. Sometimes it's something emotional. Sometimes it's something intellectual that's causing a crisis. Sometimes it's not something you can change. I'll take one. That was quick.
Assalamu alaikum first.
Are you guys friends?
Kind of. Yeah, two quick questions because
I'm not going to tell you why I asked that question.
Because of the shirts that we were wearing.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't say it.
I have one question in the context and one question out of the context. It's quick, by the way.
Okay.
About the ayah, the meaning of the ayah that we said that it's about exact being meaningful, about the value of something, etc. And there's another ayah that, for instance, Allah says, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ مَنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ,
right,
etc. And at the same time, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. Doesn't this kind of decrease the meaningfulness of this worldly life?
Really good question.
And the second one is out of the context, which is coming from long way that they told me to have your opinion upon it. And that's the emptiness of the heart. How should we go about it? How is there anything to heal this, the emptiness of the heart?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the first.
Can you ask easier questions next time? Okay, so remind me of the first one again. My heart got empty after that second one. That was oh yeah. So the ayah has meaning, but Allah also says worldly life is nothing but a game. But worldly life actually means, this is why context is so important in the Quran. When Allah says worldly life is nothing but a game and entertainment, He's actually talking about how people think that the experiences you're having in this life are somehow permanent, or you get lost in them to the point where you can't see beyond them. Like, for example, when somebody's having a problem, then it's hard for them to think beyond that problem, to step beyond that problem. You understand? And what's the thing what happens in a game is that a game has a limited beginning and an ending, and then reality strikes, right? So a comparison is being made on how temporary the issues in this world are. But so that's one side of the equation. On the other side of the equation, of course, وَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Worldly life is nothing compared to the next life, right? That's a reality. At the same time, this limited worldly reality has extremely valuable lessons in it, right? And extremely valuable. And those lessons are the ones that give meaning to both this life and connect it to the next life, that they tie them together. And we have to live that dichotomy, because one extreme that happens in religions and even in some Muslims is this world is nothing. That's an extreme. That is not the Quran. That is not the Sunnah. If this world is nothing, then you mean your mother is nothing, your father is nothing, your children are nothing. Then prayer is nothing because that's in this world. The Kaaba is nothing, and then everything is nothing. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. No, but this world compared to the next is nothing means whatever I do in this life should be of some benefit also in the next life, or at least not violate the next life. That's the point of it. But and the insignificance of this world does not take away from it giving us significant direction anyway, right? So both of those things go hand in hand. And it does save us from a really terrible extreme, because when you start saying this dunya is nothing, I just want akhirah, then you haven't understood Allah's book. Why did Allah say, go look at the mountain, look at this beautiful fruit that I'm giving you, وَالنَّخْلُ ذَاتُ الْأَكْمَامِ وَالْحَبُّ ذُو الْعَصْفِ وَالرَّيْحَانِ, like, look at this beautiful smell in the breeze, look at this tree with the fruits that have covers on them, and you say, Ya Allah, thanks, but it's nothing. Nothing. مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَلْتَقِيَانِ, nothing. Dummy, read the Quran. Okay, so I've noticed something. Every time somebody goes to an extreme is because they're distant from the Quran. Every time. Quran, it'll mention something, but it'll balance it. Then it'll mention something, then it'll balance it. And if you don't have that balance, you'll go either swing this way or swing that way. and your worldview gets really twisted. Okay. Oh, the empty heart? Oh, man. Okay. Oh, you're recording it too? That takes the pressure off. Yeah. This is great. So briefly, my thoughts on this. I've talked about this before, but briefly for you guys, I tend to believe that human beings are complicated creatures that have multiple components to them: an intellectual component, a spiritual component, an emotional component, and a physical component. I'll say that again: intellectual, emotional, spiritual, and physical. It's at least these four, right? And the problem is, if, for example, you are living a decent life, but you know intellectually you're capable of much more, you're not exercising your mind to its fullest, you will still be dissatisfied. Something is missing. Even if you're praying spiritually, emotionally, all your relationships are okay, physically you're in good health, intellectually there's a gap, and it leaves you with an emptiness. Similarly, there are people that are intellectually fulfilled, they are spiritually on point, they are physically okay, but emotionally they've got some problem. They have a terrible relationship with their mother. They don't get along with their spouse. Or they have a deep sadness inside them because of something that happened and they're never able to cope with it. Something like that. There's something missing. So this time, it's not the spiritual or the physical that's missing, it's the emotional that's missing. Other times, it's the physical. Like you're sick, right? Now the thing is, these four things are not four different boxes in myself. These are connected to each other. So when I'm fasting, for example, when I'm fasting, I sleep a lot. Okay? And you know what? When I'm fasting, I'm not able to concentrate and study as much. I'm just not able to do it. So the physical affected my what? It affected my intellectual. It did. Directly. Or outside of Ramadan, when I'm hungry, I'm not in a good mood. I'm hangry. Okay? I'm Hungarian. Okay? So when I'm hungry, so what is the physical is now affecting what? The emotional. The emotional. What I'm trying to get at is sometimes what you feel like is an emptiness, we think every time there's a problem, it's a spiritual problem. But the spiritual gets affected by the physical, the emotional, and the intellectual. Those three start having an impact on the spiritual. So somebody, for example, says, I just feel so hopeless. What dua can I make? And I'm like, hold on, where did the hopeless come from? I keep having an argument with my mom. So the problem here is an emotional one. And you're thinking the problem is a spiritual one. And you want a dua to solve this problem. Well, while you're making that dua, you're still having the same argument with your mom over and over again. And you haven't actually addressed the root problem. And you think now this is becoming yes, it can become a spiritual crisis because you didn't address the thing that was causing the spiritual crisis. Sometimes it's something physical that's causing a crisis. Sometimes it's something emotional. Sometimes it's something intellectual that's causing a crisis. Sometimes it's not something you can change. A disability, I can't change it. It's Allah's hands. Sometimes it's a situation like a relationship like Abu Lahab. That's the Prophet's uncle. You can't change uncles. You're just stuck with whatever you got. You can't change it. Then you have to learn to live with that problem and not allow that to affect your spirituality, and stop making delusional prayers or thinking that somehow if I pray, then Abu Lahab tomorrow he'll turn into Hamza. He is who he is, right? I can make dua for everyone's guidance, but in the end, they have to make their decision. A lot of times people's hopelessness comes from their inability to make someone else change. We're obsessed with making somebody else change according to our expectations. So that would be my 2 cents on the emptiness of the heart. But I also think that meaningful company, meaningful experiences, they can replenish the heart quite a bit.